Hi and welcome to Business Economics Revision session number 3. In this particular session, I'm looking at June 2019 final exam for 1.3, that is Business Economics for Zika. So let's go to that question paper and see what we can do with it. All right, so that's final exam for 1.3 Business Economics for Zika for June 2019. Let's start with section A. So section A says refer to the table in the diagram below. We've seen that table, and the question is a surplus of 160 units would be encountered if the price was okay. Now, if we are to have a surplus simply means that supply is higher than demand. Supply is higher than demand. So if we are to have surplus there, it means that the price must be above the equilibrium price. So the price must be above the equilibrium price, and that understanding itself eliminates option C and D. Eliminates option C and D. D, when the price is lower than the equilibrium price, you have shortage instead of surplus. So if the question is talking about surplus, then the price must be above 1. So the only possible solutions is A and B. Now let's look at B. B, the price is 1.6. Now if you look at 1.6, that's the price at the top there. Now that price shows that if the price is at 1.6, demand is gonna be equals to 0. So if demand is 0, supply should be somewhere around 290. If you can look at the other figure that side, 290 units. So that cannot also be the answer. It can't be the answer because we're talking about the surplus of 160. If the price is at 1.6, surplus would be way too much beyond the 160. to be somewhere 290. So the surplus of 160 can only be the price between 1.6 and 1, above 1 but below 1.6. And if you look at the options there, option A spells that option A is correct. 1.05 is the only possible answer that we can have for the surplus of 160 units. Question number 2. Which of the following is a barrier to entry in an industry? There are four barriers to entry in any industry. Number 1, we have the legal barrier. Number 2, we have the cost barrier. Number 3, we have the economies of scale barrier. And number 4, we have product differentiation barrier. So among the 4 barriers, the only barrier highlighted in this question is economies of scale barrier. So the correct option there is option A. Question 1.3. One of the features of monopoly is the demand cave. Okay, so monopolies have got downsloping demand cave, or imperfect markets have downsloping demand caves. Oligopoly has a kinked demand cave, and perfect competition has a horizontal demand cave. So if you're talking about monopoly, it should be a downsloping demand cave. So correct option there is option C, slopes downwards. The demand cave has to slope downwards. Okay, so 1.4. Which of the following is not commonly offered as a reason to support protectionism? So what is protectionism? Protectionism means that countries are employing barriers to trade in order to protect their local industry, or protect infant industry, or protect strategic industry. So they employ barriers to trade. So which of the following is not used as a reason to support protectionism? So we have number 1, trade destroys jobs. Obviously that is not the reason to support protectionism, so number 1 is not the reason. Number 2, industries threatened with competition may be may be vital to national security. So those are strategic industries. So protectionism, we put barriers because we want to protect strategic industries or infant industries in a nation. So that's a reason. Number two is a reason. Number three, new industries need trade restriction to help get started. So that's protecting infant industries. That's also is a reason for protectionism. Number four, some countries unfairly subsidize their firms, so competition is unfair. So unfair competition is another reason for protectionism. Then number five, promoting specialization and increase worldwide production levels. Actually, specialization is a reason for supporting international trade. It's not a reason that is given to support protectionism. So the correct options there is 1 and 5. So correct option is option B. Option B. Number 1.5. A market for pollution. A market for pollution can be expected to. Okay, so a market pollution can be expected to eliminate pollution, no produce shortage of pollution, no encourage polluters to increase emission. Actually, you can't do that. You can't encourage polluters to increase emission. Provide potential polluters with monetary incentive to reduce emission. That's correct. Option D is correct. This is the reason why governments sometimes give polluter permits, pollution permits. So when you are given a pollution permit, it simply means that the company is allowed to emit to a certain extent in any given period of time. So those firms that can reduce on emissions, they can actually sell those permits to other firms that cannot manage to reduce pollution. So those are tradable pollution permits. And because of the monetary incentive in it, firms will strive to reduce pollution or totally do away with pollution and sell the permits to other firms that cannot manage to do so. So overall, the government would be encouraging firms to minimize on their pollution because of the financial incentive attached to the tradable permits. And sometimes government can also subsidize methods of production that do not emit pollutants as a way of encouraging firms to reduce their emissions. So correct option for 1.5 is D. 1.6. Which of the following best describes ability to pay canons of taxation? Ability to pay is where a tax is charged in proportion to the amounts of money earned, and the tax is based on someone's ability to pay. So those who are earning more are charged the higher tax because they've got ability to pay those higher taxes, and those who are earning less are charged lower taxes. So this is called progressive income taxation. 1.6 correct option is B, progressive income taxation. 1.7 which phase of the business cycle would be most closely associated with economic contraction? Economic contraction is where economic activities are going down and unemployment is rising, business is going down. So this is known as with a recession. So recession. So 1.7 correct option is C. That should be a recession. 1.8 South People's Republic is a newly established country with a population of 20 million, coupled with a labor force of 10 million, of which 8.5 million are employed. What is the unemployment rate? Unemployment rate is the number of people who are unemployed divided by the total workforce times 100%. The unemployed divided by total workforce times 100%. So if out of 10 million workforce or labor force, 8.5 are employed, it means that 1.5 are unemployed. So the unemployment rate will be 1.5 over 10 times 100, and that will give you 15%. 1.5 Unemployed out of the total labor force, 10 million multiplied by 100%, that's gonna be a 15%. 1.9 1.9 dumping is the sale of a product in another country. Okay, so dumping, you are selling these products in another country at a very very low price, and the price does not reflect the cost of production. So it could be that the product is sold at lower price than the cost of production. This is done sometimes as a way of getting rid of these products from another country to another country. So you sell those products at a very very low price. So the correct option for 1.9 is A, a price below its domestic price or the price below the cost of production. 1.10, which of the following statements is not correct? Which of the following statements is not correct? Okay, so we are looking for the statement that is not correct. So the first one says where marginal product is greater than average product is rising. Marginal product influences average product, just like marginal cost influences average cost. So if the marginal cost is less than the average cost, the marginal cost will be pulling average cost downwards. But if the marginal cost is greater than the average cost, then marginal cost will be pushing average cost upwards. So that's the kind of relationship we have between marginal product and average product. So that statement A is correct, but we are looking for the statement that is not correct. Where total product is at maximum, average product is also at maximum. No, that's not true. Total product and average product move, they do not move at the same pace. So that's not correct. And that's, of course, that's the correct answer, because the question is looking for a statement that is not correct. And B, statement is not correct. So that's the correct option for this one. Okay, so let's move on to section B and try to see what we have there. A market can be defined as any situation in which potential buyers and potential sellers of goods come together for the purpose of exchange. Price play a vital role in market economies because they bring the market into equilibrium. If the price is different from its equilibrium level, quantity supplied and quantity demanded are not equal. The resulting excess supply or excess demand leads to suppliers adjusting the price until equilibrium is restored. Prices that serve as a signal that guide economic decisions and allocate scarce resources. However, this power of price is lost when government intervenes intervenes in the market using price controls. That's a price ceiling and price floor. Okay, so price ceiling and price floors. Define the term equilibrium in economics. Equilibrium means, or equilibrium is a point at which quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. Quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. So the equilibrium price is the price at which quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. Given the following, so we have the demand function and we have the supply function. Find the equilibrium price. Okay, so equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So let me just take these functions to our work page and try to solve it from there. Okay, so where are we there? Okay, so that's the demand function. Okay, so the quantity demanded function is given as follows, and then we have the quantity supplied. Okay, so now we are looking for the equilibrium price, and we've said at equilibrium, quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. So at equilibrium, quantity demanded equals to quantity supplied. Okay, so that's what we are working with. So the quantity demanded function is this one. So that function should be equals to quantity supplied function, which is this one. Okay, so that is equals to that. So collect like terms, you have a negative 90p. Okay, so shift the other 110p. When it crosses the equal sign, it becomes a negative 110p. That is equals to 10,000. That's what we have on the right side. Then 20,000, when it crosses the equal sign, it becomes a negative 20,000. All right, so collect like terms. Okay, so let's solve negative 90p minus 110p. We have a negative 200p, negative 200p, and that should be equals to 10,000 minus 20,000. That will be a negative 10,000, a negative 10,000. So divide the left side by negative 200. So divide by negative 200. Whatever you do on the left side of the equation should be done on the right side of the equation as well. So you divide by negative 200, and you have price that is equals to 10,000, negative 10,000 divided by 200. That's gonna be 50. So the price, the equilibrium price, is 50. So we are told to calculate the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity, and we know that at equilibrium the quantity will be the same, so it doesn't matter which equation you get. We know that at equilibrium, quantity supplied equals to quantity demanded, so you can take any function. So in this case, I've taken the function for quantity demanded. Okay, so that's the quantity demanded. So what will be quantity demanded when the price is 50? Because that's the equilibrium price we've got. So you just take that where there is P, put 50, because that's the price. All right, so 50, and so 50 multiplied by 90, 50 multiplied by 90. Okay, so quantity at the end of the day is going to be, this is 4,500. So 4,500 subtracted from 2,000, the quantity demanded and supplied would be 15,500. 90 multiplied by 50 is going to be 4,500. Take that from the 20,000, you have 15,500 units. So these are the units that are going to be demanded and of course supplied, because that's the equilibrium point. All right, so the equilibrium price 50, the equilibrium quantity 15,500. Let's get back to the question and see the other questions there. So find the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. We've just done that. Suppose that government imposes a price ceiling of 40 per unit. Calculate the new equilibrium price and quantity and explain the implication of that. Now, if government imposes a price, the demand and supply might not be at equilibrium, might not be at equilibrium, because if you impose a price, it means that the quantity demanded and quantity supplied will be totally different. And we have said the equilibrium price was 50. So if government is setting a price below the market price or below the equilibrium price, this is going to result in a shortage, or result in a shortage. A price higher than the equilibrium results in surplus. A price below the equilibrium will result in shortages. So let's try to see what will be the quantity demanded and quantity supplied if we use the price of 40. So we are working with the same equations there. Okay, so with the price of 40, what will be the quantity demanded? So you multiply there, where there is P, you put 40. So the quantity demanded will be 2000 minus 90 times 40. So 90 times 40, that's about 3,600. So 3,600 subtracted from 20,000, that will give you 16,400. 16,400 units. So 16,400 units will be bought. And this, of course, confirms the law of demand. When the price falls, quantity demanded increases. When we had the price of 50, quantity demanded was 15.5. Now the price of 40, quantity demanded has moved up to 16,400. What about quantity supplied? When you reduce the price, quantity supplied has to fall. So where there is P in the supply curve, we put 40, and we see how much this is gonna be. So 10,000 plus 100 and so plus 110 times 40, so that's going to be 4,400 plus 10,000. It'll give you 14,400 units. So quantity supplied has fallen to 14,400 units. So what will be the impact of this? The impact of this is that demand is higher, supply is lower, so we have a shortage. We have a shortage, but it's a shortage of how much? It's a shortage of the difference between quantity demanded units and quantity supplied units, and that's about 2,000 units. Shortage of 2,000 units. That will be the resultant when government intervenes with that price set. Okay, so next question. Explain any 4 factors affecting demand. So factors affecting demand are quite straightforward. Okay, so factors affecting demand. If you want to understand the factors that affect demand, just look at what influences your own demand, and then you'll be able to notice that. Number one, it's the price of a good that influences your own demand. Price of a good. When the price is higher, you buy less. When the price is low, you buy more. And secondly is the price of other related goods. Price of related goods. Related goods are put into 2 categories. You have substitutes, and so goods can be substitutes. Those goods you use in place of the other, or they could be complements. Those goods you use together. All right. For example, car and fuel are complement. Bread and butter are substitutes. Now with substitutes, when the price of one goes up, the demand for the other comes down, because when the price of butter, for instance, goes up, the demand for margarine, if the margarine is a substitute for butter, the price of margarine goes down. All right, if the price of tea increases, the demand for coffee will come down. Complements, if the price of one increases, the demand for the other reduces. For example, if the price of cars went up, people buy fewer cars, and so they demand for less fuel. All right, so that's the price of related goods. The other thing that affects demand is the price expectations. Price expectations. Okay, so how this one works: when you are expecting prices to increase in the near future, you tend to buy more now because you want to beat up the price increases, and that will force demand to increase, and eventually prices will increase. So in economics, we say whatever you expect is bound to happen. If customers are expecting prices to go down, they hold back in terms of purchase because they are waiting for the prices to go down before they start buying. And that will reduce will reduce demand. Less demand will force prices to go down. So whatever you expect will surely happen. The other factor that influences demand is household income. Household income. Now, household income also has two effects depending on the type of good. So the increase in household income causes the demand for normal goods to go up, but the increase in household income will cause the demand for inferior products to go down. All right. Mostly people buy inferior products because they are cheaper. So, and because they can't afford to buy better quality products. So when your income is going up, you can now afford to buy better quality products, so the demand for inferior products will go down. The other thing that influences demand is the issue of advertising. Advertising has a great influence on demand. If you advertise more, your demand will go up. The other thing that influences demand is population. The increase in population forces demand to go up. Then other things, you can cluster them together, like quality, customer preferences, etc. Those are some of the factors that will cause demand to change. Now, I should mention something here. Let's go back to our first factor. Okay, so these there are about 6 factors that influence demand. These factors will cause a shift of the demand curve, either to the right or to the left. To the right, showing increase in demand; to the left, showing a decrease in demand. But the demand curve is going to change its position because of these factors. So only the price of a good would cause a movement along the demand curve, where the demand curve does not change its position, but you have contractions and expansions in the demand along the demand curve. So only the price of a good. All these other factors will cause the demand curve to change its position, move to the right or to the left. Let's get back to the question paper. Distinguish between change in demand and change in quantity demanded. So change in demand is a shift of the demand curve. The demand curve is changing its position, and that will be caused by all the other factors I've mentioned, like change in income, change in population, advertising, price expectation, price of other related goods. Those will cause a change in demand. The demand curve will shift its position. But the change in the quantity demanded is what we are referring to as just the movement along the demand curve, and that is caused by the change in the price of a good. That's a very important point to take note. Let's move on to question 3. The ICT sector is one of the most dynamic economic segments globally. Given its dynamism, it is being considered as an enabler of growth in almost all countries, Zambia included. Over the years, the sector has become increasingly important in supporting growth as governments and enterprises go digital in an attempt to increase their market size while cutting operation costs. Zambia ICT sector is dominated by the service providers, with other components playing a relatively smaller role. The telecommunication sector is among the service providers that have dominated the ICT sector in Zambia, with its performance in terms of competition, profitability, and market penetration increasing over the years. Okay, so from your economic knowledge of market structures, under which market structure does the telecommunication sector in Zambia fall? Okay, so our telecommunication sector in Zambia is highly dominated by three big firms, Zamtel, Airtel, and MTN. So this is a oligopoly market structure. Oligopoly market structure is the market structure where you have only not only three, you have fewer big firms dominating the industry. Fewer big firms, could be two firms, three firms, or four firms that are dominating the industry, but they are just few firms. All right, that's oligopoly market structures. There are actually about 5 market structures. Let me just mention them quickly. We have perfect competition market structure, where you have so many firms in the industry and so many buyers. Then it's followed by monopolistic market structure, where I have many firms, though they may not be as many as they are in a perfect competition market structure. And the other difference between perfect competition and monopolistic is that the product that is sold under perfect competition is an identical product. Under monopolistic, the product is differentiated. Then you have oligopoly, where you have few large firms dominating the industry, and then you have monopoly, where there is only one firm dominating the industry, and then you have monopsony, where there is only one big buyer and the rest are suppliers. All right, it's a funny kind of market structure. You have only one big buyer, the rest are suppliers. Okay, so our telecommunication industry in Zambia is dominated by few large firms. That's oligopoly market structure. So outline any 5 features of the market structure you have stated above. 5 features of oligopoly market structure. Features of oligopoly market structure: we have number 1, few large firms. Number 2, there is a kinked demand curve. Number 3, there is strong barriers to entry. Number 4, the product is homogeneous or differentiated. Number 5, the firms can sustain supernormal profits in the industry. All right, let me run through that list once again. Characteristics or features of oligopoly market structure. Number 1, few large firms dominating the industry. Number 2, the kinked demand curve. Number 3, strong barriers to entry. Number 4, homogeneous product or differentiated product. Number 5, the firms can sustain supernormal profits. They make supernormal profits and they can sustain supernormal profits in the long run. Okay, so number C, explain price determination in this industry. Now, because there are only few large firms, and the other thing that happens in oligopoly market structure is behavioral relationship. The firms there tend to copy from each other. Okay, so let me see how we can demonstrate that. Okay, so let's say, for instance, this is say this is the prevailing market price level. Okay, so let's say that's the prevailing market price level. Any firm that tries to reduce the price, all the other firms will follow suit, because they are scared of losing their market share. That's a problem. So All firms at the end of the day will be selling at the same lower price. Why? One firm attempted to reduce the price, and the other firm, for fear of losing market share or losing clients, they end up reducing the prices, and all the firms are selling to the same number of customers at a reduced price. So demand at the price below the market price, demand is inelastic. So you have to do an inelastic demand curve. Then the other thing that will happen is if any firm tries to increase the price above the market price, the other firms will maintain their prices in the hope of winning customers from that firm that has increased the price. So you find that at a price above the market price, demand is very elastic. So you have to draw an elastic demand curve like that. All right. So oligopoly demand curve, we have two demand curves. The one for the prices below, and the other one for the prices above. So this simply means that firms in the oligopoly market structure never attempt to compete on the basis of prices. They find other factors like product differentiation, and they use those factors to compete. Competing based on prices is so disadvantageous for the firms in the oligopoly industry. So now when we remove these excesses here, we have something like that. Remove the excess line there, and that's what forms the kinked demand curve. And that demand curve is called the kinked because it forms a kinky where the two demand curves are touching. That forms a corner, it forms a kinky. So it's called the kinked demand curve. It's a combination of two demand curves. So in terms of price determinations here, firms will avoid competing on the basis of price. They will compete on product differentiation and other offers and stuff like that. All right. Okay, so that's about okay, so we have the last one there. Describe the three fundamental economic problems faced by firms and the telecommunication industry. Fundamental economic problems, of course, let's talk about this one. So fundamental So when you're talking about fundamental economic problems, you're talking about problems to do with scarcity of resources, You're talking about the issue of choices, and you're talking about the issue of opportunity cost. So how do you explain this in line with the oligopoly market structure that we have? How do you explain that in line with the oligopoly market structure? So in terms of scarcity of resources, firms have to make choices. Because there are no enough resources to offer all the services. Make choices because there are no enough resources to offer all services. So scarcity means the firms do not have enough resources to offer all services that they can offer in the industry. So because of that, firms have to make economic choices. They have to make economic choices. So the choices they make is in line of what to produce or what to offer. Since it's a service industry, they have to decide what to offer. Number two, they have to decide how to offer that, how to offer those services, because the resources are scarce and you are making choices and you want to make the best of the best, you want to get the best out of the available resources. So how do you offer these resources? So how to offer answers questions of efficiency so that resources are not wasted. Then thirdly, you have to decide who to consume those services, who to consume the services. You have to decide who will consume the services. And the people that should consume the services offered by the telecom industry are those with ability to pay. Ability to pay. That's what we conclude in economics. The people that qualify to get these services and these goods are those that have got the ability to pay. And every time you make a choice, you incur a cost called an opportunity cost. So by making those choices, firms have to forego some benefits. So opportunity cost, these are just benefits foregone in the next best alternative. Benefits foregone in the next best alternative. So the three fundamental economic issues there that are faced by telecom industry is the scarcity of resources. Because the resources are not enough, telecom firms must make choices. All right, must make choices of what to produce, how to produce, and who consume what is produced. And by making choices like that, these firms have to forego some benefits in the next best alternatives they could have taken. All right, so back to the question. So for this one, I want to end here. Thank you so much. I will do another video to finish explaining the rest of the question in this question paper. Thank you for your time. Hope it was beneficial to you.